morning, everybody, and welcome to day 4 of the student seminar. Today we have, like last 2 days, 4 speakers, and they'll be talking on a variety of topics. So the chair for today is Monideep Ghosh. He is a young member of our Curry Leaf family, and he's currently an integrated PhD student at TIFR camp, Bangalore. Okay, so welcome, Monideep.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran, for the introduction. Good morning. As you all know, this is the 4th day of the virtual student seminar program, the VSSP, organized by Curry Leaf. So this day also is Raksha Bandhan, as you may know. So on this day of caring and sharing, we commence the day with an endeavor to share knowledge. So our first speaker for today's seminar would be Anirban Das. He is currently a BSc final year student at the Ramakrishna Mission Vivekananda Centenary College, Kolkata. So he was also he attended the MTTS 2020 program in level O and the MTTS 2021 in level 1, and he will be speaking on the topic an intuitive approach to real inner product spaces. Over to you, Anirban Das.
So, as it is already said that I will be talking about an intuitive approach to real inner product spaces. And before starting, I just want to say that when we study real inner product spaces, we come across many ideas which are previously familiar to us, like the length. And but there we see that those ideas are being defined weirdly in terms of inner products. And we also study those things and don't think that usually that why are they being defined in that way, and we just go ahead. So today I will try to motivate you for those definitions. We will see why do we define those things in that way, and we will eventually come to that things, and we will actually motivate you intuitively and geometrically for that definition. So let us go ahead with that. First of all, inner product spaces, I assume that we all know what are inner product spaces, but still if you want to go through, you can go through this, the definition of real inner product spaces. And now we already have some structure with us, which is R2 with the dot product. So whenever we will want to have some geometric intuition, we will come to R2, we will see the things in R2, and we will get motivated from there, and then we will generalize the ideas in general inner product spaces. So first of all, in R2, we already have many predefined concepts, like the concept of dot product. So you know that how is dot product defined in R2. If x1, x2 and y1, y2 are two vectors, x and y, then the dot product x dot y is defined as x1, y1 plus x2, y2. The next concept is that of length of a vector. Suppose x is x1, x2, a vector, then we know that length of x, which we denote by this symbol, and sometimes we call it the norm of x, is defined as the non-negative square root of x1 square plus x2 square, right? And now there are several other notions also, like the notion of projections, angles, etc. So to start with, let us consider this picture. I've taken two vectors in R2, x and y, and the coordinates of the first vector is x1, x2, and that of the second is y1, y2. The first vector is named as a and b. The points x1, x2 and y1, y2 are named respectively as a and b. And here you can see that the angle between these two vectors is theta. And I have just joined the points A and B with a line segment, and I have got a triangle with angle theta with an angle theta. Okay. Now with this picture in mind, let us discuss the geometric interpretation of inner products. So we will keep this picture with us. Now you know that this is a triangle with an angle theta, right? So we know from our basic trigonometry that we can apply law of cosines to this triangle. And you know that if we do that, then we will be getting some formula like this. Okay. And now if you look at this formula, AB square equal to something something, here the terms AB, OA, OB, these are actually known terms to us. For example, let us concentrate on AB. See, what is AB? AB is the length of this line segment. Okay. And this is in fact a vector. AB is in fact the length of the vector AB. Now, do you know how can we write vector AB in terms of A and B? Obviously, you know AB vector is actually B minus A, isn't it? So what is B minus A? The coordinates of B minus A are y1 minus x1, y2 minus x2. So what is AB then? AB is the length of AB vector. Therefore, AB is by definition square root of y1 minus x1 whole square plus y2 minus x2 whole square. Okay, and in that way you can obtain AB square. Similarly, you can obtain OA square, OB square, etc. in terms of x1, x2, y1, y2, which I have written here. Now you see that here, if you just put these formulas in this expression and simplify, then you will be getting this expression, right? And if you concentrate, you will see that in this expression, all the terms are actually known terms to us. Like the first term is x dot y. This term is the length of x and this is the length of y. So if you put it in that way, you will be getting this x dot y is norm x norm y cos theta. Now you may think that this is enough interpretation of at least the dot product, geometrical interpretation, that x dot y is the length of x multiplied by the length of y multiplied by the cosine of the angle between them, right? But we want to investigate a little bit further. So let us consider this picture. This is just the previous picture. I've just made a bit modifications. See, I've just drawn a perpendicular from this point A onto the vector y, right? And hence obtaining a right angle triangle. And see, this side of the right angle triangle is the x vector, and therefore its length is norm x. Now we know that, do you remember that what this vector is called? This origin and the foot of the perpendicular, if you join these two, this vector is actually the projection of x onto y, or rather onto the space spanned by y. I'll be saying the projection of x onto y only. So this thing, this much line segment is the projection of x onto y, and from trigonometry we know that the length of this is norm x cos theta, right? So with this picture in mind, let us see. What did we see then? The length of projection of x, we projected x on the space spanned by y. So on this straight line, we projected x, and the length is norm x cos theta, right? And now I am introducing a notation. See, projection of x on y is a big term, so I'll be calling it simply by py of x, right? So we just saw that the length of py of x is norm x cos theta. And similarly, you can prove that if you project y onto x, then the length of the projection will be norm y cos theta, right? So to summarize, what do we have? In case this inner product is the dot product, then we had this equality. Inner product of xy is norm x norm y cos theta. And from there, we saw that this thing is actually length of x times length of the projection of y on x. Or similarly, you can write it in this way also, length of y times length of projection of x on y. So this is the interpretation. From now, we will think this as the interpretation of inner products in an arbitrary inner product space. real inner product space, right? So whenever you will have a real inner product space and you will be having some expression like this, x inner product of x and y, you will be thinking in this way, that this is nothing but the length of x multiplied by the length of projection of y on x, or the other way. Okay. And now at this point you may not think that this is a very nice geometric approach, but believe me, as we go on you will see that all the concepts fall into places from this interpretation. Okay, so let us go ahead. So before going to the previous slide, let's see that here we took inner product of xy. So there is actually a special case of this inner product, which is if you take x equal to y, what happens if x and y are the same vector? With that idea, let us go to the next concept, the length or norm. So as we were talking, inner product of x. Now, as we have our intuitive approach of inner products, according to that approach, what is inner product of xx? It is the length of x multiplied by the length of projection of x on x, right? Now look at this picture. I've just shown you the vector x. Now, what do you think the projection of the vector x onto itself? If you project x onto itself, then what will you be getting? If you think for a while, and you can even prove it, that the projection of x onto itself is nothing but the vector x itself. Okay, so simply here projection of x on x, this phrase I will be replacing by x, which I have done. Now see that, and if you write it symbolically, then this becomes norm x the whole square. So inner product of xx is norm x the whole square according to our intuition, and therefore you get norm x to be the non-negative square root of inner product of xx. And I'm taking it non-negative because I want the length to be non-negative. Okay, and this is the definition of length of an arbitrary vector in an inner product space, right? So intuitively you reach to the definition of length, this weird definition, right? Okay, now after length we want to talk about projections in an arbitrary real inner product space. But before going into an arbitrary inner product space, let us discuss about projections in R2 itself. How do we project vectors in R2? So suppose I've taken two vectors x and y in R2, and suppose that I want to project this vector x onto the vector y, right? So what do I do? Actually, as we already saw, that the projecting x on y actually means projecting x on the spanned space of y, right? So I simply took the spanned space, or the space spanned by y, which is the straight line passing through y and the origin. So I took this straight line, then I drew a perpendicular from the point x to this straight line. And suppose that the foot of the perpendicular is P, right? Then you now consider the OP vector. And this is our projection of x onto y. This is how we project vectors in R2, right? Now, with this picture in mind, let us go ahead. So now we want to talk about projections in an arbitrary real inner product space. See, for talking about projections, let us first take two vectors x and y and v, and let us always keep that picture in our mind, right? Now see that I just want to go back for a while. See here, I drew a line which passes through this point y and the origin. Now, what do you think? When can we draw a line? Can we draw it all the time? For any given vector y, can we draw this line? Do you think? It turns out we cannot draw all the time, because we can draw this line uniquely if the vector y is a non-zero vector, right? So with that motivation in mind, while talking about general projections, I'm taking y to be non-zero. But it may happen that you are not satisfied with that motivation, that why are we taking y non-zero. So if that happens, then I'm going to give you a motivation for taking y non-zero in a minute. So bear with me till that. Now, first of all, so we want to define projection of a vector onto another vector in some arbitrary real inner product space. Now, if you think about in an inner product space, till now we only have the notions of inner product and length. So if we want to define projections, that is a new concept, then we have to define it in terms of inner products and lengths only. Now, first of all, see, this projection itself is a vector, right? So, so intuitively we think that it has a magnitude and a direction. So let us go one by one. Let us consider the magnitude of this projection vector. How can we find that magnitude? And since we want to define in an arbitrary inner product space, so we want to find this magnitude of the projection vector in terms of inner products. So do you know some relation which relates the magnitude of projection with inner products? You actually know this relation. Our primary intuition that inner product of xy is length of y multiplied by length of projection of x on y, right? So from this expression, we can work out what is length of projection of x on y. The length we can find, and the length is this inner product of xy by norm y. Now see here, I want norm y to be non-zero to get this, right? And norm y is non-zero if and only if the vector y is non-zero. So then this assumption is justified, right? So we got the length of the, yes.
Your 5 minutes, you have more 5 minutes for your
Okay,
speaking.
okay, thank you. So we got the length of the projection vector. Now projection is a vector and we have got the length of it. So what do we have to do to find the actual vector? See, if we find a unit vector in the direction of this OP, means the projection vector, then we are done. We can multiply by the length with that unit vector and we will be done, right? So let us see that. So how can we get a unit vector in the direction of OP? First of all, notice that OP and this y vector have the same direction. So I can only have a unit vector in the direction of y. So do you know how to get a unit vector in the direction of y? That is y by norm y. That is simple, right? So this is a unit vector in the direction of y. Now to get the projection vector, I simply multiply, it's a scalar multiplication. I simply multiply the length of the projection vector with the unit vector in the direction of the projection vector. And if I calculate it, I just substitute the expressions, then it turns out to be this, and simplifying it becomes this. And this is the formula of projections in an arbitrary real inner product spaces. This is how we define projections, right? So after projections, I want to talk about angles in an arbitrary inner product space. So again, to start with, let us take two vectors x, y, and I'm always considering v to be my real inner product space. And so if x and y are two vectors, now we want, see, I've written x and y non-zero. Why do we want that? See, if you imagine an R2 only, if you want to, if you suppose in R2 you have two vectors x and y, right? And you want to measure the angle between them. What happens if one of them is zero? Then that is a single point and you can't measure the angle between a line and a point, right? So that is meaningless. Therefore, to talk in general also, we take xy non-zero, but again, if you are not satisfied with this assumption, then again you will be satisfied after some time. Now think that you want to define angle in an arbitrary inner product space, and then you have to define it in terms of inner products only, because you have no other notions in an inner product space, right? So do you know some relation which relates angles with inner products, at least in R2? We actually know. In R2, we know this equality. X dot y is norm x norm y cos theta. And this is something which relates inner product with angles, right? And so see that if we generalize this to an arbitrary inner product space, then it takes the form of this. Inner product of xy is norm x norm y cos theta. But I have written that this is just an intuition, because this equality is not true in an arbitrary inner product space, because till now we haven't defined what is theta in an arbitrary inner product space, right? So therefore, but what we can do is we can use this equality to actually define the angle between two vectors in an arbitrary inner product space. And that is exactly what we have done. So we have taken, so to summarize, we have taken two vectors x and y from an inner product space, and they are non-zero. I have taken, and the angle between them I have defined it as cos inverse of inner product of xy by norm x norm y. You see, here we need norm x and norm y to be non-zero to define this, and that happens if and only if x and y are non-zero, right? Now whenever I define this, a question comes that whether this always exists or not, right? Because cos inverse of everything doesn't exist. For example, if you take cos inverse of 2, or if you take cos inverse of 31, anything, then all the things doesn't exist, because you're not going to get a real number theta for which cos theta is 31, because cos theta is always less or equal to 1. Therefore this question stays. Now I really leave it to you. You can really think that when cos inverse of some real number z exists, suppose you get that cos inverse of z exists if and only if z satisfies some property p, then check whether this quantity inner product of xy by norm x norm y also has that property p or not. And believe me, it's going to be interesting. So go ahead with that, but I'm not going to. Now generally we take theta in closed interval 0 pi, because see, even if this quantity exists, still there is a question of uniqueness, because cos is a periodic function, so it is not unique in general, right? Therefore, for the uniqueness sake, we restrict our theta in a specific range. It is just similar like the argument of a complex number, and hence we get theta in closed interval 0 to pi. We just restrict it, right? So this is how we define angles in an inner product space.
Anirban, your time is almost up. Please quickly wrap up.
Actually, I can stop here, or if you want, then I will say something more, whatever you say.
If it will take less than 1 minute, you can go ahead with what you want to say.
It will take actually kind of 2 minutes. It will take.
Okay, you go ahead.
Anirban, you can proceed.
Okay. So now, as we have defined angle with the concept of angle, some more concepts come, like the concept of parallelity and the concept of perpendicularity. And if I want to say mathematically, then theta equal to 0 or theta equal to pi is also there, or theta equal to pi by 2, right? And I'm not going deep into the case theta equal to 0. I will be mainly concerned about theta equal to pi by 2. And this is in fact a very important case for inner product spaces, that we define it separately. Suppose x and y are non-zero vectors, we say that they are perpendicular or orthogonal to each other if the angle between them is 90 degree or pi by 2, right? Now let us see a bit further. Suppose x and y are two orthogonal vectors, then by definition the angle between them is pi by 2. And since the theta is always in closed interval 0 to pi, so we can say theta is pi by 2 if and only if cos theta is 0. And as the way we have defined cos theta in an inner product space, it turns out that this expression is 0 by definition of theta. And we can simplify it simply. Norm x and norm y, we will multiply both sides by norm x norm y, and we will be getting this. And see, this is the, so we got that x and y are orthogonal if and only if inner product of xy is 0. And this is a standard way to define orthogonality between vectors, right? Now I just want to show a last thing quickly, that I have taken two orthogonal vectors in R2, and what I want to do is I want to project this vector x onto the vector y, right? So what I do for that, I take the line passing through the vector y and origin, and I draw a perpendicular from this point on the line. But you see that the vector x is already perpendicular. Therefore, the foot of the perpendicular will be origin, and hence the projection of x on y will be the 0 vector. And since we have defined projections intuitively, therefore we think that this will be true in an arbitrary inner product space also. So let us see, I have already given a proof, but we can think in another way also. Suppose x and y are two orthogonal vectors. Then this is the formula of projection of x on y. And since x and y are orthogonal, so inner product of xy is 0. And therefore this quantity is 0. Therefore you see that the projection is becoming 0. And this is as we expected. So, and you can prove it in this way also. I'm not going through it. So why did I showed you this expression? Because we saw a geometric fact in R2 and we saw that that is becoming true in an arbitrary inner product space. So you on yourself can explore many geometric facts about vectors, which is true in R2, and you can check that whether it is true in a general inner product space or not. In particular, I motivate you to see the relation between orthogonality and linear dependence, and it's really interesting to see that. And to end with, I will say from where did I get motivated. So the first thing is the book of linear algebra written by Kumarsan sir, and there is very nice geometric interpretations given on that book, not only about inner product space but also linear algebra, the whole of linear algebra. And the second source is the videos on linear algebra by 3Blue 1Bound. It's available on YouTube, so you can see, and it's really interesting. And so with this I stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Anirban, for the wonderful talk and motivating inner product geometrically.